And the puella eterna resists all of it. She clings to the illusion of innocence because reality demands something she's never developed, an inner structure. You see it when she avoids decisions, when every hard moment becomes your fault, when she jumps from passion to passion, job to job, relationship to relationship, always chasing excitement, but never building anything solid. That's not just confusion. That's a psychological defense mechanism. She's avoiding the very process Jung called individuation, the painful but necessary journey of becoming whole. And here's what should haunt you. You didn't know this. You watched these patterns unfold in front of you and thought it was love. You thought it was your job to fix it. And in doing so, you lost yourself. Because when a man stands in the presence of the eternal girl, he doesn't just carry her. He begins to shrink. He adjusts. He softens. He avoids conflict. He becomes the emotional stabilizer for someone who refuses to stabilize herself, and he thinks that's noble. But what it really is surrender. You gave up your center because you didn't know you were stepping into someone else's shadow. Jung warned us, whatever you do not bring into consciousness will return as fate. And that's exactly what happens to men who don't understand the puella. You end up in cycles, drawn to the same kind of woman, suffering the same emotional storms, each time hoping it'll be different. It won't be. Not until you see the pattern. Not until you understand that behind the softness, the playfulness, the cute indecision is a refusal to grow up. A refusal to integrate the hard truths of life. And it's not always her fault. Many were raised this way, overprotected, praised for beauty but never for strength, taught to please but never to lead, and so they learned to survive through charm instead of character. But here's where it gets worse. Our culture rewards it. Social media floods you with images of women who seem light, carefree, untouched by life. That's the persona, the mask. Jung said the persona is the compromise between who you are and what the world expects of you. For the eternal girl, the persona is everything. And behind it, there is no foundation. And you, man, builder, protector, you step in and try to be that foundation. But you were never supposed to be. You weren't taught to recognize her fear of adulthood disguised as freedom, her rebellion against routine dressed up as independence, her inability to commit spun as keeping her options open. Jung saw it clearly. The puella lives in a suspended state, forever romanticizing potential, forever resisting the weight of consequence. She wants the rewards of maturity without the price. She craves intimacy but recoils from accountability. She says she wants a real man, but when that man arrives, she panics. Because a real man demands a real woman, not a child wrapped in charm, not a damsel addicted to being rescued. And that's where your guilt should land. Not because you were cruel or inattentive, but because you stayed blind for too long. You ignored the signs. You saw her avoid hard conversations, deflect responsibility, spiral at the first sign of difficulty. And you told yourself it was love. But Jung would call it what it really was, projection. You projected depth onto someone who hadn't developed it. You gave meaning to her chaos. You romanticized her need for you, mistaking emotional dependence for emotional connection. That wasn't love. That was unconsciousness, on both sides. Jung warned that the unconscious always seeks balance. So if one partner refuses to grow, the other begins to overcompensate. You became her emotional parent, her therapist, her protector. You sacrificed your peace trying to stabilize her storms. But here's the truth Jung would want you to face. If a woman hasn't faced her shadow, if she hasn't integrated the painful truths about herself, she will make you carry them. And you'll drown under the weight of emotions that were never yours to begin with. This is why so many men feel lost, angry, even resentful in the aftermath of these relationships. You weren't just heartbroken. You were drained by someone who refused to evolve. You kept waiting for her to rise and meet you in adulthood. But she was never climbing. She was clinging to youth, to fantasy, to the safety of being someone else's responsibility. And you let her. Not because you're weak, but because no one taught you better. But now you know. Now, the illusion is broken. And the question isn't why she never grew up. It's why you kept choosing someone who didn't want to. Jung believed that growth begins the moment we confront the parts of ourselves we've tried to avoid. For women, that often means reclaiming the shadow, those suppressed traits like ambition, anger, independence, the things society told them were unfeminine. But for men, that confrontation starts by seeing clearly, by no longer confusing emotional chaos for depth, by no longer mistaking helplessness for vulnerability, and most of all, by admitting that you were seduced not just by her, but by the idea of being needed. You wanted to be the hero in her story, and in doing so, you ignored your own. But you weren't built to rescue. You were built to lead, to discern, to stand in reality, not fantasy. Jung taught that a man who hasn't made peace with his own anima, his inner feminine, will forever be manipulated by it in the outside world. That's what happens when you don't do the work. You find yourself attracted to women who mirror your own unresolved psyche. Women who reflect the softness you crave, the chaos you deny, or the validation you never received. And without realizing it, you build your identity around being her anchor. But an anchor tied to a sinking ship doesn't save anything, it just goes down with it. You were supposed to lead her out of the fog, not live in it with her. But because you didn't know what you were looking at, you made excuses. She's just figuring things out. She's been through a lot. She's not ready yet. And maybe all of that was true, but it doesn't change the deeper truth. She didn't want to grow. She wanted comfort, fantasy, escape. And you, like most men, mistook that for femininity. But real feminine energy is not fragile, it is focused. It is creative, grounded, even ferocious when fully developed. The Eternal Girl has none of that.